Hi everyone! So yesterday I made my video talking about the recent patch and the changes to nightmare dungeons. You might have seen that, but if not, I have it linked in the description. If you're not aware, there was a massive buff to XP gained in nightmare dungeons. They buffed monster and the end of run experience by 80%. And you can also teleport in front of the dungeon now by clicking on the icon on the world map. So this is a massive improvement for nightmare dungeons, and well, I put it to the test and it shows. It's actually incredible how much faster you can farm XP now, especially for me because I've been just doing nightmare dungeons all the way almost whenever I was leveling my characters compared to other people maybe doing those normal dungeon farming strategies and stuff like that, or group play even. So I was not really doing anything like that. So for me, this actually turned out to be something like a more than ×2 multiplier, basically, without the travel and all that. It's actually crazy. And I want to show this in action here. So this is my rogue build here. This is flurry plus rapid fire. I'm going to make a guide on that soon. And it is definitely one of probably the fastest builds in the game right now. So of course your mileage may vary a little bit when you play yourself. But I was timing my level ups here. You can see in the bottom right corner I have the timer. And I was just like checking how long it actually takes for each level. Mostly just running nightmare dungeons. Occasionally I did some other stuff like Hell Tides. Hell Tides, by the way, even though they did get buffed, they are really bad. And it's basically a bigger gap now. So Nightmare Dungeons is like the absolute #1. And then there's a little bit of XP, like maybe a third if you're optimistic in Hell Tides. And then, yeah, maybe something like half or so, I guess, in normal dungeons. So this is kind of like the distribution right now in terms of XP. And Whispers are probably even worse than that. But anyway, I just want to show off like how fast you can level up now actually when you have a good build and you just do like non-stop blasting. So you see here I'm like right at the start of the level. In 2 minutes I already made actually noticeable progress on the XP bar, as you can see. And if you move forward here, you see this here like around 25 minutes or so, I actually hit the half level mark, so the first 2 points. And yeah, and around these levels, like close to 90 or so, it took me less than an hour to level up. So I think this was like a 50-minute level up or something. You can see this here. Yeah, 49 minutes. And then boom, here, level up, and we start the timer again. And I continued this testing basically all the way yesterday. I farmed from level 86 to 96 in one day. I mean, arguably a quite long day, but still, it was pretty incredible that you were able to level up that quickly, and that such a massive change has happened already so early in the game's lifespan. So you see this here, this is like another test at level 91, and I move forward, and I had a break in between, I believe, where I stopped the timer. But yeah, you see here, 43 minutes, you're almost at 3 points, and then, yeah, still around an hour here for this level up. So I think it's actually quite feasible to farm even 99 to 100 in roughly 1 hour. That would correspond to something like, I think, 22 million XP per hour or so. Again, this is on a pretty high end, I guess, but it still shows that the speed has massively improved. So for those of you that want to maybe finish their first character before Season 1, it definitely has become much less of a drag now in these later levels. You actually do have to focus a lot more on like picking up the loot. So I was actually not just speed running, I was actually, just playing regularly, picking the loot, sorting out the loot, etc. And I was still leveling up in an hour. And I can definitely just recommend everyone the same. You have to focus on the loot, else you're going to be level 100 and you have no items. So especially now that the leveling is so much faster, you have to focus on that. And also the glyphs. You may have also seen the Nightmare Dungeon tier list that I've released 2 weeks ago or something like that. I actually went through this yesterday. I did some more testing and then updated the list as well. So here it is. I have this grouped in 4 different categories. So one is the XP, one is glyph leveling, one is a high tier pushing for like tier 80 plus, so like the very high end there. And then one is the group farm, where mostly we rank these nightmare dungeons depending on how much you can speed up or really benefit in like a group scenario when you spread out. So this is basically what you have here. And some dungeons basically moved up and down a little bit, because previously I actually had factored in the travel time a little bit, and now that is not really such a problem anymore. For example, I had Dark Ravine ranked really low. I kind of like that dungeon. It's actually the one you see here in the background, and this is one of those that I do run here and there when I have a good sigil and I don't really have anything else. It's okay. And this was previously like a D tier or something in XP, and also for glyph leveling it was just really terrible because it was so far away. This was like by far the longest travel time, and well, with the travel time eliminated, that is obviously moving up. I think I moved it from D to B, for example. So there was a bit of like up and down here depending on the travel time, and also some other like fine tuning I did on the tier list here. And we have all of these 30 dungeons listed out here. So if you want to go check them out, I have the updated Nightmare Dungeon sheet also linked in the description. And we are also doing some more like data gathering. I know Rax is doing something as well. And we will update the Maxwell tier list according to what we discuss on Saturday. We always have our meetings on Saturday. But I can tell you two things already. Number one is that you should actually focus a lot on glyphs in my opinion. So because you just get to level 100 so much faster now, you will not really catch up on your glyphs if you have many of them, especially if you want to level other glyphs for other builds, you know, you want to try out later or so. If you want to actually boost your glyphs to 21, it will take a while. So usually a lot of people go for level 15 at least, so that's kind of like the minimum to get a glyph really online, and then you can get it to 21, which is roughly, again, the same XP required, so roughly double to get a glyph from 15 to 21. So what I was doing previously is that I was generally full clearing maps or almost full clearing maps, especially the good dungeons here for the XP. But this is not really such a high priority anymore in my opinion. You do find enough sigils anyway, and now without the travel time eliminated, it's not really so important that you try to stack up multiple of the same sigils, for example. You just teleport there anyway. So it doesn't really matter if you just run a different dungeon almost every single time. So the XP, as long as it's like some kind of okay dungeon, like B or A tier or so, is usually fine, and I would always try to shortcut them as much as possible. You know, something like Alderwood, for example. We have Alderwood in Scotsglen that if you're full cleared can take significantly longer than if you just, you know, go kill the 3 trees and run to the boss, and that's it. So this is one of those things to consider here. And the second thing is that you can actually focus a lot more on the actual affixes on the dungeons and kind of dodge those that you don't like. So there are some very common ones like Resource Burn and Death Pulse that I would generally try to avoid because they're just very annoying or deadly. And there's other stuff like Cold Enchanted, or for example something like Critical Resist makes enemies very tanky, or monsters gain a barrier so you can't make them vulnerable, which is a bit of a problem for some builds. So there are those scenarios where you have just really bad affixes on your sigils and you don't really have to try hard to run the bad ones anymore. So if there's affixes you really don't like, you can skip them much more easily now, because you don't have this consideration of do I really want to try to run like a second copy of the same sigil so you don't have to travel anywhere else. You just salvage them, and worst case you craft some new ones, and then you have the right tiers, the right affixes, and you just go with that. There are certainly some dungeons you generally want to stay away from, even if they have a good sigil. So for example Black Asylum, I think it's just like terrible across the board. It's very deadly and not really fun, and you know, quite annoying with the slay all, etc. So it just gets like really bad ratings here, so it's like something I would never step foot into really, if you can avoid it. But in general, the best dungeons that I was farming, we have Molewood, I really like that one. Kordogan is actually relatively packed in my opinion, it's kind of good for XP, kind of long though for if you want to level glyphs. Then we have Lost Archives, it's like a nice filler dungeon when you don't have anything. I really like Dark Ravine as a filler as well. Gurran Canals, superb, it's relatively fast, relatively packed, lots of XP, easy glyphs. Then we have Blind Burrows, which gets the probably overall best rating in this entire sheet here, so this gets a SAS. That is a really good dungeon to run under any circumstance, pretty much. We have Serpent's Lair. If you like the snakes, or if you can handle the snakes, Serpent's Lair is really good. Witchwater is even better than that, also has snakes, so this is very good as well. And then we have some other like filler dungeons that I run here and there, so Crusaders, Prison, basically all these B tier XP dungeons. I do them whenever I don't really have a good sigil of anything else. Renegade's Retreat as well, I kind of like that. And then we have Alderwood here. Alderwood is like really top tier in my opinion, so both for XP and for glyph leveling, I think this is great. And Raven Wilds, kind of the same story here. They're kind of fast, you can shortcut a lot, and if you know your way around. And then there's Sunken Ruins, which is relatively fast. Previously had the problem that it was super far away, and well, it is very packed with monsters, so if you want XP, you can full clear these. This is a very good dungeon for that. And depending on your build and your playstyle, you may like some dungeons a bit more than others, depending on the objectives and the monsters that are present. Some of them are just like more dangerous than others, or more annoying than others for certain builds. For example, Alderwood with the oppressor trees that you have to defeat. So this may actually be something that is a bit of a problem for some builds, so keep that in mind. Your mileage may vary a little bit, but generally this is like probably a relatively like averaged out ranking here, I think. So in my experience, you just focus on like your top 10 to 15 dungeons or so roughly half of this selection of 30 dungeons. and then the other half you just salvage every single time if you don't like them. And that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I wish you good luck with the Nightmare Dungeon grind, and see you guys next time.